Hey folks, and welcome to Tyrdom. Not everything that walks beside you can be seen. There are things our ancestors spoke about, not as metaphors, but as something real. Something that followed you along your side in life, something that reflected you and your own personal characteristics, and sometimes something that warned you when danger was imminent. They called this the Fylgja. And what is a Fylgja? Well, the word Fylgja simply means the one who follows in Old Norse. It's quite similar to modern Scandinavian Fylgja, which would be the translation. And in the old Icelandic sagas, like Njal's saga and Egil's saga, people didn't speak about this lightly. This was a very real thing to them. They described it as something that appeared in dreams before conflict, wars, and oftentimes before death itself. And most often than not, this came in the form of an animal. Oftentimes as a wolf or a bear or a fox, or sometimes as a bird, but it could be all types of animals as well. And the form of animal was not random. The form mattered, and a strong man would oftentimes be depicted as having a bear as a Fylgja, and a cunning man would oftentimes have a fox as his Fylgja. The cunning fox, we all heard those tales up until this day. And the relentless men, the fighters, were oftentimes associated to wolves. And there are some cases where the Fylgja is not manifested as an animal. Sometimes it appeared as a woman, not as a protector, but as something tied to the fate itself. Maybe associated to the norms that weaved your life thread from your birth to your death. And an important note here is that the Fylgja was not there to save you. It was there to show you who you really are. And let's talk a bit about the meaning. I think where most modern interpretations go wrong, they reduce this to psychology, or even inflate it to some kind of fantasy. And I think both of these cases miss the point a bit. So let's ground it, shall we? At the most basic level, you could say that the Fylgja is a reflection of your own nature, so to speak. Your tendencies or your instincts or even your direction in life. Sometimes, I guess some of my followers have read Carl Jung, and his writings about the shadow is quite similar to this concept, actually. There are parts of you who aren't visible, but they are always present. The parts that act even when you don't think. And those could be associated to your Fylgja as well, just like the shadow. in Carl Jung's work. And across cultures, we can see similar patterns to the Fylgja. People describe themselves through animals. I've talked about the connection to Finnish mythology and the bear cults, which I will do more about, by the way. It's very fascinating stuff. But they describe themselves through animals and their characteristics. And this was not, for decoration's sake. It was more about recognition, because somewhere deep down we understand something simple about this. You are not separate from nature, and rather you are shaped by nature and built by nature, and you are still driven by nature, even though modern life tend to give us a false sense of us being totally decoupled from it. But there's an open question attached to all of this, and there's a part here we can't fully explain, because this idea about the Fylgja, or the spirit animal, big air quotes on that one, they appear again and again in different places and across time. So either everyone has been wrong about this concept for millennia, or everyone was pointing at something that has a kernel of truth to it. And I've had this idea stuck in my mind now for about 2 years that I want to see if you like. And it's about the concept of the digital Fylgja, because I think this might become relevant all over again, because for the first time we are actually building something that kind of acts like a Fylgja. Not a spiritual Fylgja, but a functioning Fylgja with a functionality, so to say. And I'm of course talking about Agentic AI. And the Agentic AI learns how you think. It tracks your patterns and understands your personal preferences and references. And it adapts to your own behavior. And it over time starts to follow you, just like the Fylgja. And let's be clear here, this isn't that much about mysticism. It has no soul in itself, and it's not a spirit, not something anciently reborn, but it does something very specific. It starts to reflect you, and just like the old times Fylgja, it will start taking on the personal characteristics of you, and by doing that it will enforce those characteristics, just like the Fylgja was seen to do with men. For example, a man with the Fylgja in form of a bear would inherit its powers and traits. And I think the parallels here becomes a bit real, because the old Fylgja revealed your nature over time, slowly and indirectly, but this one, it kind of does it instantly, through tech instead. And I think there's a danger here that needs to be addressed, because I've talked about this before. I am not by any stretch of the imagination anti-AI. I use it all the time myself, but most people think that AI will guide them. It won't. It will just amplify them. And if you're focused, it will sharpen you. But if you're distracted, it will start to fragment you. And I think we can all see this already, actually. If you lack direction, it will give you more of the same. And I think that the danger is not that AI becomes something else. The danger is that it becomes exactly like you. And most people are not ready to face that fact, I believe. Because if you see yourself in a clearly fashion without any distortions, without excuses and without narrative, it's not a comfortable look. And if we look at Carl Jung again, and the shadow, this is not a pleasant thing. So I think that we have some introspecting to do here, and the story about the Fylgja is actually starting to become relevant again. I think that if we look at this from a helicopter perspective for a second, what does all of this mean then? Our ancestors lived with something they did not fully understand, but they respected it nevertheless. And they did not pretend that it was harmless. They did not pretend it was nothing either. And we are now creating something that we can't fully understand yet. The fact of the matter is that we are no longer building AI. AI is building itself. That's the way it works now. No one is sitting around coding the AI. We're just giving it information. And I think that this time, if we don't treat it with respect, we treat it like a tool. And that might be a very big mistake. Because whether we call this one a Fylgja or not, I think that the question remains the same. What is walking beside you this time around? And maybe more importantly, what is it becoming? Thank you guys for watching, and let me know what characteristics you believe you have in your Fylgja, and let me know what you think about the concept of the digital Fylgja. This has been on my mind for a long time now, and I think it's a relevant connection here to be made. Okay, have a lovely day, folks. Talk to you later, and as usual, Tyrdom out.